So yesterday, after the Miami Heat lost to the Indiana Pacers, Jimmy Butler had some pretty interesting things to say during his press conference.
What will fix it? What do you want to see happen to fix it?
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court. But I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. And I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
So Jimmy Butler clearly wants out of Miami. He's done. He wants to leave. His agent's embarrassed because Shams reported this earlier, and then his agent was like, that's not true, and now it is true, right? Good job, Shams. Congratulations. But it's going to be really difficult for him to get out of Miami because this new CBA, trades are just, it feels like they're impossible to even have them happen. And Jimmy Butler's contract is a major, major issue, right? And part of the goal of these new trade rules was to keep guys from forcing their way out and to keep, and to make these guys actually play. Like, I think it's been great that Jimmy Butler has really kind of had to play because there really isn't anywhere for him to go, as we're about to get into here in a couple minutes. But we're seeing the same thing in Chicago as well, right? Zach LaVine, a guy that had been talked about being moved. He's having to play every night because it's just really hard to trade these max contract guys if there isn't another max contract guy that is upset. And as I was looking into where Jimmy Butler could go, there are some really obvious places that are just really tough to make happen, especially when Pat Riley is your president of basketball ops and he isn't going to make a deal unless it is undoubtedly a good deal for Miami. It's part of why Damian Lillard didn't end up at South Beach. So I think the three most popular teams that you're going to see people throw out are the Warriors, right? That's going to be one of them. It would make sense. They need a secondary scorer if they want a legitimate chance to make a run. But because of these new trade rules, they would have to give up a lot for 35-year-old Jimmy Butler, which for the Warriors makes sense because Steph Curry's 36. They're trying to win right now. But is Jimmy Butler worth giving up the following players? They'd have to give up Andrew Wiggins, who's kind of important, probably Jonathan Kuminga, and two of either Gary Payton, Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, or Kevon Looney. So they would have to give up four players in return for the one, and four impactful players like Kyle Anderson's playing a decent amount of minutes. Buddy Hield, he's playing a lot of minutes as kind of that off guard who can really shoot the ball. Kevon Looney, I don't think I have to stress how important he is. And I just think that the Warriors are going to look at that and be like, nah, we're good. I think we'd rather roll with what we have, but at the same time, having stars is really nice, especially when you're the Warriors and they clearly need a second. I think another team that we're going to get seen thrown out there is the Grizzlies. And people are going to recommend the Grizzlies because the Grizzlies have a ton of just really good players and they can't pay all of them, so they're going to have to trade them at some point. The issue is that when you look at the contracts, I don't know who they would move because obviously they want to keep John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr., three guys with big contracts that would make this trade easier. So they would have to move Marcus Smart and Brandon Clark, and in addition to that, some sort of mid-level guy like Conchar or Luke Kennard. Okay, that is a lot to give up for a 35-year-old who's going to want another max contract when this is over. I also don't know how well he pairs with John Morant. Two superstars that aren't great shooters, just doesn't seem like it makes a ton of sense for a Memphis Grizzlies team that has NBA title aspirations. But at the same time, if you have aspirations for an NBA title, you go get Jimmy Butler. So that one doesn't make a lot of sense. I think that the Grizzlies would, once again, have to give up too much in order to go get him. And then finally, there's the Rockets, which makes a lot of sense. They, like the Grizzlies, have a ton of young talent. They're not going to be able to pay everybody. But like all of their really talented guys are still pretty cheap right now with multiple years left on their deals. But something that makes the Rockets the most logical place for Jimmy Butler to go is that Fred VanVleet contract. Okay, because he's at $42 million a year. Houston's not over the luxury tax, so they can bring in more money than they send out, and all of those things. So that contract that Fred VanVleet is under is very important. And look, they could trade him straight up in terms of the numbers. I don't think that that's what would actually happen. But numbers-wise, the Rockets could send Fran VanVleet and a whole bunch of picks to Miami for Jimmy Butler, and that would be it. And, selfishly, they aren't going to do that. I would love to see Reed Shepherd get some more minutes. So I'd love that, but that's not going to happen. So there's a world where the Rockets move Fred VanVleet and maybe like Tari Eason or someone like that, and Cam Whitmore, a guy who I think would undoubtedly be involved in this deal. They could send them down there to Miami along with some picks in return for Jimmy Butler. They could also, if they wanted to keep Fred VanVleet, keep their point guard, they could also trade like Dylan Brooks, Landale, Jeff Green, and Cam Whitmore if they really wanted to keep Fred VanVleet, who's very important for their team, obviously. So they have multiple options. If anyone's going to trade for him, it would probably be the Rockets. That's just kind of who I would assume. There are other teams out there who could probably make trades, like if the Thunder for some reason wanted them. They've got a ton of picks, so like they can make that happen. The Pacers have a lot of good young players. I don't think that they're ready to move off of like Benedict Mathurin and Jarris Walker quite yet. Living here in Indy, it seems like they do really like those guys. And then one other team that could do it, and is going to be a really interesting team to kind of monitor going forward, is the Brooklyn Nets, because it seems like they're going to move off Cam Johnson here at some point, but this is a team with a ton of cap space. They've got a ton of picks. They've got this Ben Simmons expiring contract that they could potentially trade away if they wanted to. So if they wanted Jimmy Butler, they could do it as well. They're the other team that could do it but doesn't really make a ton of sense. So if I had to bet money on where Jimmy Butler ends up, I would honestly bet on him to remain in Miami. But if not, if I had to say that he'd get traded, it would probably be to Houston, a team that knows that it's really good. I think Jimmy Butler would fit in culturally there, a guy who is willing to play defense. Because look, if you're going to play for Ime Udoka, you better play some defense. So that would make the most sense just in terms of fit and in terms of teams that actually have the things needed to make trades. So if I had to bet anywhere, I would bet Houston, but honestly, I don't think Miami is going to get a trade done because Pat Riley can be kind of stingy. So thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, do all those fun things, and I'll be back again with another video for you here shortly.